when there's too much depletion of the ozone layer. Global warming is the weather changing in big amounts. I don't know.
Global warming is the heating of the ozone when there's a lot of fumes from cars and pollution. It's pretty much pollution in the ozone.
Polar bears are dying.
Polar bears?
Yeah.
Anything else?
Ice caps are melting.
Do you know what happens when the ice caps melt?
Polar bears die. The ice melts and then there's less habitats for polar bears, and it's really bad for when you breathe.
The sun sends thermal radiation down to the Earth, but only about 1% of the total thermal radiation at the top of the atmosphere actually makes it down to the Earth's surface. The rest is either scattered back to space or absorbed by clouds or particles in the atmosphere. Thermal radiation that reaches the Earth can be used for photosynthesis, melting snow, and more, but most is re-radiated back to space as infrared radiation. However, little radiation ever actually reaches space. Most of it is absorbed by greenhouse gases and redirected back to Earth, where the cycle continues. This process is called the greenhouse effect, and in simpler words, it lets light in but keeps heat from escaping, just like a greenhouse. Greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide, methane, and water vapor naturally exist in the atmosphere, but due to population growth and industrialization, these and other greenhouse gases are becoming increasingly prominent. More CO2 from cars, factories, and electricity production. More methane from landfills and agriculture. More nitrous oxide from fertilizers and gases used for industrial processes, and more chlorofluorocarbons from aerosol sprays and refrigerators. But, of course, less forests that would otherwise store carbon dioxide. If this graph doesn't prove that carbon dioxide concentrations are increasing, nothing will. By burning so much fossil fuel, humans are enhancing the greenhouse effect and warming Earth. The increased greenhouse gases are trapping excessive heat in the atmosphere. Now, instead of our Earth wearing a blanket, it is wearing a comforter. Ice sheets and glaciers cover up to 10% of the world's land and hold approximately 75% of the world's fresh water. But they are also proving to be one of the greatest factors affected by global warming. For one thing, people rely on runoff from glaciers for clean drinking water, irrigation, and even hydroelectric power plants. Since all the glaciers are melting at one time, they will not be available for fresh water in the future. People will experience extreme droughts. Melting glaciers and ice caps will not only affect drinking water, but is causing a sea level rise, which has so many more impacts. In the 20th century, melting glaciers and ice caps led to a 2.5 centimeter rise in sea level. It is estimated that for the 21st century, melting of glaciers and ice caps will cause a 10 to 12 centimeter rise in sea level. Loss of ice from Greenland and Antarctica contributed a 1 centimeter rise in the 20th century. It may take many centuries, but if all of Greenland melted, it would add roughly 7 meters to sea level, while the West Antarctic sheet, which is particularly vulnerable, would contribute 5 meters of sea level. Another cause of sea level rise is thermal expansion. As temperature increases, water molecules expand. Thermal expansion is the most certain cause of rising sea level. 2/3 of the world's cities with over 5 million people are in danger zones of rising sea level. With rising sea level and flooding, many people are going to be forced to relocate, and unfortunately there will probably be many environmental refugees. While the melting of sea ice does not contribute directly to rising sea level, as it is already in the ocean and causing displacement, it does contribute to a reduction in albedo, the surface reflectivity. This will cause a greater increase of solar radiation absorption and will accelerate warming. Another impact of sea level rising is salt water is going to intrude freshwater aquifers. The salt water will penetrate underground freshwater supplies. The mixing of salt water and freshwater causes convection, a type of current that continues to mix water. The incoming salt water and the inland fresh water mix to create brackish water. Brackish water is not safe to drink because it causes dehydration. As we see, the amount of brackish water is steadily increasing. Additionally, loss of runoff from glaciers and unpredictable precipitation patterns, which can cause drought and flood, will endanger drinking water supply. Average growing season temperatures are increasing, and with that comes decreasing plant fertility and soil moisture. The tropics and subtropics will be hit the hardest, where plants will not be able to survive the 6° Fahrenheit increase in temperature, and also where half our population lives. Overuse agriculture and there will be nothing left to overuse, and this will cause widespread famine. The more CO2 in the atmosphere, the more CO2 absorbed by the ocean. Dissolved CO2 deep in the ocean creates carbonic acid, increasing the ocean's acidity. Ocean water is meant to be slightly basic, but with the increasing carbon dioxide, it is slowly moving acidic on the pH scale. With increased acidity comes decreased calcium carbonate, which is what many marine organisms use to build their shells. It is crucial to coral growth, and a decrease in calcium carbonate could cause coral bleaching, which will endanger many marine habitats. This will put marine life biodiversity at risk. Global warming will fuel the spread of epidemics in unexpected areas. Mosquitoes, ticks, and mice are surviving warmer winters and expanding their range. Dengue fever showed up for the first time in North America 7 years ago and infected 21,000 people, killing 800. This is just the beginning. This map shows the distribution of malaria now, in yellow, and the distribution of malaria as it will be in the year 2050 in red. Global warming is threatening ecosystems and biodiversity. Plants and animals are unable to adapt due to increasing temperature and shifting biomes. It is certain that plant life will not be able to migrate fast enough to keep up with global warming. This will create major issues for agriculture and medical plants. And with the extinction of one species comes an entire unbalanced ecosystem. Lastly, extreme weather and hurricanes will be a major impact of global warming. Increased atmosphere temperature means increased sea surface temperature, which means more high-level hurricanes. 2006 was recorded as a quiet year with only 5 hurricanes, but 100 years ago it would have been recorded as a very stormy year, and only 20 years ago it would have been recorded as an average year. Do not forget that major use of fossil fuels did not begin until the 1900s, which is where we see a major incline in the graph begin. A poll in 2006 found fewer than 4 in 10 people believed that global warming was a serious problem. So the first thing to help global warming is going to have to be to raise awareness. In order to stabilize carbon dioxide levels, 70 to 80% of emissions will have to be reduced. This may include human traffic, shutting down fossil fuel-based plants, or just simply replacing the 245 million cars in the country with hybrids which run just as well. But the US is not the only issue. Industrializing countries like India and China are increasing emissions. If the UN passed a law restricting emissions, it would be the most ideal to stop global warming. But US leadership is essential. Individual lifestyle changes like using fluorescent light bulbs, shorter showers, and using reusable bags will help prevent global warming also. As a society, we need to stand together and stop destroying the Earth. The natural greenhouse effect plus excessive use of fossil fuels and carbon dioxide emissions means drought, floods, people losing homes, loss of drinking waters, ocean being destroyed, ecosystems dying, heat waves, famine, wildfires, loss of medical plants, spread of disease, monster hurricanes, and death.